Hi, I'm Dan, and I am back to continue the complete vinyl collection series. Probably shouldn't have to explain what I'm doing here at this point, so let's just get back into it. We are in 2008. This is an album from Facing New York. It's called Get Hot, and it's another kind of unique packaging from In the Clouds. The jacket is in the shape of a matchbook. So it folds out and you got your striking strip along here. And the record came inside, but I've kept it outside of it. Limited to 250. This is a great album from Facing New York, and I talked about them earlier in the series. They put out a new record just a couple years ago, but before that, it had been all the way since 2008 since they had done anything. And this has some really great music on it. Radiohead and Rainbows. Shouldn't really need to explain a whole lot about that one. The pressing is okay. It's my understanding that a European pressing is probably ideal. This is a reissue of Modern Guilt from Beck. Some pretty great music on here. I'm not a fan of all of Beck's work, but Modern Guilt is one that I like to have. Rob Crow of Pinback, one of his solo albums. It's called Living Well. It's very cool. I believe there's extra tracks for this album that are just on this vinyl release. Another Perfuse 73. This is Preparations from 2007. That's also on Warp Records. The Forms. Talked about this in the past. This album, I heard overhead on the stereo at a bar one time, way back 2008 about. I asked the bartender what it was because it just sounded so cool to me. Really great indie rock from New York. It's recorded by Steve Albini, and so it has that great indie sound. And I just loved the music on this. I ordered it from them. It was very inexpensive. I don't know if you can still get it on vinyl, but you can still find this album. It's self-titled, and it's just fantastic. I love it. This is another one from Moving Mountains. Post-rock with vocals. I call it post-rock. It's probably not entirely accurate, but that's what I associate it with. This one's called Numa. It might just be remastered, but other pressings of this, some that I've had, weren't that great, but it was reissued on this colored vinyl, which turned out really, really well. It's a double LP on this clear and splattered vinyl. Yeah, this was reissued in 2015, and this color was limited to 300. This is a reissue that was long awaited. A band called Hope's Fall, an album called Magnetic North from 2007. This was pressed on orange with purple splatter a few years back. 400 copies of that, and it's already long out of print and unavailable except for high Discogs prices. But Hope's Fall is a band that I've really enjoyed in the post-hardcore era. Pinback album, 2007, Autumn of the Seraphs. Pinback is phenomenal. I've talked quite a bit about them. A good one from Iron and Wine. This is The Shepherd's Dog. Songs like Boy with a Coin are staples of this kind of more evolved, more full band type music from Iron and Wine. The last, sadly, album from one of my all-time favorites, Silverchair. This is Young Modern. And this is a recent reissue that came out on blue vinyl overseas. I ordered it and had it shipped from Australia, but even through all that, it really wasn't all that expensive to get. And it definitely belongs in my collection. I absolutely adore Silverchair, and we might talk about that a little bit more as we get to the older records. This is one of many pressings of Planet of Ice by Minus the Bear. It's had several different colors, different mastering, etc. This is a 45 RPM version on Coke bottle blue vinyl that I got, and I thought sounded good enough that I haven't chased another pressing. It's been cut by Bernie Grundman at some point later, which I'm sure is great. It's been reissued several times, but this just seemed like it was good enough. There's 500 of these. Great Minus the Bear album. Okay, another one from Rogue Wave, Asleep at Heaven's Gate. This is an original from 2007. It's a double LP and a single jacket. Great record, some of the best songs on here. And it has been recut, reissued, and from what I can tell, it's probably a better pressing of it, but I've held on to my original. I think that's going to be good enough for me. I think you can stream the remastered version of it. The Eraser, Tom York from Radiohead. Pretty damn good solo record. Sounds quite good on vinyl, if I recall. Another Perfuse 73. This is probably one of the lesser regarded. It's called Security Screenings. I bought this one used, I believe. But like I said, I did try to get all of those. Another from These Arms Are Snakes. This one's Easter. This is probably their crown jewel. I talked about Helen Cellar not too long ago. This is their debut full-length, made of several EPs and singles. It's called A Prayer to Myself. It's put out by Cameron Crowe's Vinyl Films label. It compiles 3 EPs with a 4th side of previously unreleased tracks. This came out in 2006. There's a few different editions of it. This one's black. I've had the clear one, and I think there's one with red and blue records. It's just excellent shoegaze indie music. Tycho's Past His Prologue, I do believe I showed this before, but it was in the wrong place, and this is where it belongs. 2006. 2005 is This Will Destroy You, a album called Young Mountain. And I did about a week of dates with this band on tour, and it was probably the most enjoyable, certainly one of the most enjoyable tours to be on in regards to the bands that we were with and actually liking their music. I hadn't heard of them before, but they're kind of like Mogwai, that instrumental post-rock stuff. And I loved watching them every night. And this was the album they were touring on at the time. There's been a bunch of pressings of this record. As far as I know, they're very well regarded. B-sides and rarities from Deftones. This was put on vinyl back in 2016. This is a gold vinyl pressing, and I think it's been reissued on black, and I think it's still available. But this is a bunch of, as it says, B-sides and rarities. Some of my favorite songs of Deftones are B-sides, like Crenshaw Punch. I love that song. And there's some great covers, and it also comes with the DVD that had originally come with it in the CD package. But that is the Record Store Day gold version. Try from the John Mayer Trio. So the John Mayer Trio is John with Steve Jordan on drums and Pino Palladino on bass. Both of them are excellent, and this is a pretty good live album. They did Continuum with John Mayer right after this, which is largely regarded as his best, and that is definitely due to their playing on it as well. I don't know how easy that is to find anymore, but I enjoyed it. Kind of heavier on the blues side of things with that trio. Woman King, EP from Iron and Wine. Nice collection of songs. 2005. You got Jay Dilla, Donuts. This pressing, I think, is inferior to another one that was released, I think, around the same time. I really enjoyed the music. There's probably a better version on wax, but I do enjoy it. Here we got a very nice reissue of Tak, or Tak, T-A-K-K, from Sigur Rós. Just a beautiful edition. This oversized, thick jacket. Beautiful artwork. You got a 12-inch record in the front and a 10-inch in this pocket. And it was expensive, but it sounds amazing. It's just a really nice piece. Sigur Rós is just one of the best. And I had looked for this on vinyl for a long time. It was hard to find between when I started collecting and when it finally was reissued around its 10th anniversary. And I think it has been reissued again since. So, yeah, wonderful album by them too. Okay, we're about halfway through again. We'll keep going. We're in 2005. Another Rogue Wave, their second album, Descended Like Vultures. Fantastic indie rock, sub pop. Jagged Jazzist, What We Must. Another excellent album from them. We got Finch, Say Hello to Sunshine, their second album. These guys are from the Drive-Thru Records era of the alternative punk bands that were associated with that label, but these guys were definitely more along the lines of Glassjaw and stuff like that. I really enjoyed Finch. I think Say Hello to Sunshine, probably their best album, even though their first one, What It Is to Burn, is probably the favorite. I love a lot of these songs. And the artwork is very, very cool. And this was released on yellow vinyl by SRC, Shop Radio Cast. They ended up reissuing a lot of, or issuing for the first time, a lot of records from bands like this that people really wanted. And that, for me, was one of them. Cave In, Perfect Pitch Black. It's their fourth full length, and it came out after Antenna, and I think they were kind of not really sure which direction they were going after. Going the major label, more accessible rock route. But there's some great amalgamation of their styles on this one. And this is a vinyl reissue that I got, and it was a bit expensive. It was almost $30, but I had looked for it for a long time. So I got it while I could. One Line Drawing is the solo project from Jonah Matranga of Far and many other bands. But this album's called The Volunteers. And I have good memories of seeing him during this era. He's done a lot of house shows and stuff like that, unconventional shows, and I think it was Halloween that year, 2004, that I saw him at a house show that I have just great memories from. He's a great guy. This was, I believe, released in 2004. It's a compilation of Nick Drake called Made to Love Magic. Kind of like an updated version of Time of No Reply from the mid-'80s. Some of the same songs. Some songs have additional arrangements that were added to them. But, I love Nick Drake. And this was a good pressing of it, I believe. It's a reissue from 2014. I think before it had been kind of hit or miss with the vinyl quality, but glad to have that. Another reissue from Hope's Fall. This is A-Types. This is the one I really, really wanted. I really like this record. Fans of their work before this, I don't think liked it as much, but I didn't really know them before I heard this album. And I'll go ahead and show this because it's one of my favorite colorways. It's orange and yellow, which I think turned out very well. Matches the artwork. And the artwork, I think it matches just that tone of the album perfectly. Again, there's only 400 of these, and they went up in value pretty fast after they were reissued. It'd be good if they did more. Engine Down is a band that I think has been highly overlooked. This is their self-titled album from 2004. It has some of my favorite music from them. I love their vibe. I love this record. And this might still be somewhat available to get. They broke up after this one, but Engine Down has a real special place for me in that genre of alternative rock music. Another Pinback, Summer in Abaddon, Non-Photo Blue, one of the best tracks. This is a great one. This is a reissue, or a vinyl issue for the first time, of a band called Code 7. The album is Dancing Echoes, Dead Sounds. Really well done, thankfully. Vinyl pressing of it. Purple and Orange. I had showed this in a normal vinyl update video sometime last year. It was reissued not long ago, but I'd wanted it for a long time, so I was glad to get it. Another overlooked band, in my opinion, from that era. 2 Minus the Bear albums in a row from 2004. They make beer commercials like this. And the full-length Menos El Oso, definitely a gem in their catalog. I think there's been reissues of all of these that have been cut by Bernie Grundman. And these are older pressings that I have. This one's kind of cool color, so I'll show that. They called it Fruity Pebbles, which I think is appropriate. There's 500 of those. Another Iron and Wine, Our Endless Numbered Days. Fantastic album. And another Rogue Wave, Out of the Shadow, their debut album. Sub Pop, fantastic. This is a single by a band called Rondo Brothers. It's a single for Hey Stewardess, which features Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw on vocals. I'd never heard of Rondo Brothers before or since, really, but it's kind of a cool, funky track that he lays these awesome vocals over, and I just love Daryl. So when I found this in a record store, I just had to get it. 2 copies of this self-titled Deftones album from 2003. So we got an original here, which is signed by all of the living current members at the time. They signed this in 2011. This and a couple of other of my record covers, but that's an original pressing. And this is a Hot Topic reissue on a black marble vinyl. Kind of looks black when you look at it, then you look through the light, it's got a smoky quality to it. I don't think either of them really edges out sound-wise. It might even use the same metalwork on this one. Don't think I'll be getting rid of the original pressing, and this really is the reissue, is really the plain copy. 13th Step from A Perfect Circle. I had a older pressing of this. I don't know if it was an original or a reissue shortly after, but this is the Music on Vinyl pressing, which I much prefer. It sounds really good. Much better than the one that I had. And I'm glad that I went for it. Got that not too long ago. This is Shoots Too Narrow from the Shins. More indie rock. Sub Pop. 2003. Another one from Ocean Size, who I talked about in the last video. This is Effloresce from 2003, which is, I believe, the album that I found first. And the song Catalyst really drew me in. It's a phenomenal song. And this is a reissue on a double LP on this yellow, kind of mustard yellow with some red wisps in it, if you can see that. So yeah, this version, this reissue was mastered at Abbey Road and reissued in 2017. And it was really well done. I was glad to finally be able to get a copy of this. Another Jagged Jazzist. This is the Styx. This was the last of their records that I didn't have on vinyl. I finally tracked it down on Discogs, ordered it from the UK, and finally have it. Just adore Jagged Jazzist. We got 2 versions of Rival Schools United by Fate. So I talked about Walter Schriefels not too long ago, singer and the guitar player of Quicksand. This was his other major label band, Rival Schools. And their first album, United by Fate, came out in 2003. And there may be an original pressing, but these 2 reissues are different enough that I still have both. I don't think either one of them is sonically fantastic. The Music on Vinyl is probably a little bit better. But this one has several bonus tracks, B-sides, that are on it. This one's on blue and white from SRC vinyl, and this is on a green with some white from Music on Vinyl. That's the first 1,000 are on that color. I don't know if there's any more. This is number 921. I love the record. You Come Before You is the magnum opus, I would say, of a band called Poison the Well, which I really love. And I was able to find this in a record store in 2009. It's not that easy to find anymore, but this was their one and only major label album even, and it's their best, I think. Produced by the same team that did Refused, The Shape of Punk to Come. They traveled to Sweden to do it with them, and it's great. And this is a green vinyl. There's 730 of these, but I love this copy. It definitely sounds better than the CD. Love that album. And again, probably the magnum opus of Refused 73. This is One Word Extinguisher from 2003. And this was actually a gift from Derek Higgins, Derek Vaughn, veteran of the vinyl community. Yeah, he sent me this after I must have talked about a different Refused 73 record and said that I was still looking for this. And he had this copy that he didn't intend to hang on to, so he sent it to me. And I was very grateful that he did that. I'm really glad to have this album on vinyl. It's fantastic. Another music on vinyl pressing. This is John Mayer, Heavier Things. His second record. I love songs like Clarity. And then there's some, Daughters I don't really need to hear again, but there is some good stuff on this. And John Mayer has just only gotten better. But this is definitely the better version of the record. The CD was heavily affected by the loudness wars. I remember listening to it on my iPod and being like, holy shit, this is way louder than pretty much anything else I have on here. Yeah, not great, but the vinyl version, especially this music on vinyl pressing, was much better. This is Third Eye Blind, Out of the Vein. This was the version that the band put out themselves on a army green vinyl to match the cover. That was back in 2013, I think. Yeah, and some of the songs have a little bit different mix or edit to them. The version of the album is just a little bit different. I don't know if it's like a pre-master or something that they used, but it's cool to have like the slightly alternate version of this album, and it sounded quite good on vinyl. Their debut is just so special. This is kind of the go-to album for me to listen to these days. I actually just listened to it yesterday, and it's some phenomenal songs. Music on Vinyl did reissue this not too long ago. I thought about getting it. I just keep telling myself I don't need to. This is a single that I found in a dollar bin at some point by a band called Long Wave, a track called Day Sleeper. And this is just a band that I knew of because my friends were really inspired by them with their own band. And I picked this up, and it was a great song. Kind of shoegazy, atmospheric indie rock. It's pretty cool. All right, so finally, we got the original pressing that I searched for ages for of A Day to Learn the Language by the Mercury Program. It's a double LP in a single jacket, and this came out in 2002, and it's good, but it also, the tracks are supposed to flow into one another, and for some reason there's breaks where there shouldn't be. So that was a little bit annoying for some people, but I searched for this record for so long and finally just found it in a record store one day along with another record of theirs that I had searched for. It was just one of those things where you find a grail and it's just amazing. And then it was reissued in 2018 on a 45 RPM double LP. Sounds great. It is the proper sequencing, the proper listening experience on this one. It's really cool that they finally did reissue this because a lot of people had wanted it for a long time. And I'll probably still keep the original just because it was such a grail to find. But the reissue is definitely the one to listen to. And you might still be able to get it, but the Mercury Program is just a phenomenal band, and this record is just something else. Okay, so there we go. We are all the way into 2002. I had the idea in my head that I was going to shoot, I don't know, maybe 4 of these today, but just doing 2 has taken up way more time than I thought, so I'm going to go ahead and get to work on getting these ready to publish, and then hopefully get to the next cube in the not too distant future, because like I said, I would like to finish up this series by the end of the year. And we still have 8 more cubes to go. Believe it or not, we are not even quite halfway through the collection. So, I'll be back again soon. Thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy your music.